Chapter 21-27. Dustless had a great expression, which made Murasame Rain's chest tremble with anger. Let me go, or I will scream. You don't want to be seen by others, do you? A strong person like you doesn't want to lose your reputation and be treated as a pervert, do you? Murasame Rain looked at Dustless in horror. The joy of victory before disappeared without a trace. She secretly scolded that this deal was a loss. Although it was cool to see Dustless being defeated, the sad thing was that she got herself involved in it. Ah, you still dare to threaten me when you are about to die? You're such a stubborn person. Dustless looked at Murasame Rain angrily, and then raised his arm under her surprised gaze. Stop it. Stop it. Murasame Rain blushed, her face was red, and the dark circles on both sides of her eyes disappeared. She had already guessed what Dustless would do to her. Pa! A ruthless slap fell, and there was a clear palm print on Murasame Rain's butt. You dare to threaten me, Pa. Another merciless slap landed on his face. You dare to plot against me, Pa. Another slap fell. This scene lasted about a few minutes. When it was over, Murasame Rain had crystal tears on both sides of her eyes. Obviously, she was beaten by Dustless. Wait and see. Murasame Rain stared at Dustless's back fiercely, and her small hand subconsciously touched her butt. She grimaced in pain, but strangely, she didn't feel disgusted. Not only that, but she was full of energy, and there was boiling heat in her body. Strange, when did I become like this? Murasame Rain was extremely embarrassed. Every time she was slapped by Dustless, her body would have a strange electric current, and her body was soft. If it weren't for the fact that Dustless was close at hand, she might have been unable to stand up. Just now she was in pain and pleasure. Why don't you go? Do you want to stay here and try again? Dustless turned his head to look at Murasame Rain, who was still wasting time in the office, and smiled playfully. Do you want to change other tricks? For an old monster like me who has lived for hundreds of years, I have many tricks up my sleeve. You're already a few hundred years old, yet you're still playing this kind of trick? Then you must have been a super freak when you were young. Murasame Lingine snorted softly, and her charming eyes were like silk. Usually she looked sluggish. At this moment, her budding appearance was like a blooming rose, which made it difficult for people to move their eyes away. Don't be so sure. Have you seen me when I was young? When this young master was young, flowers bloomed when they saw me, and everyone loved me when they saw me. How am I as wretched as you say? Or, Dustless blinked his bright eyes and said with a faint smile, is your body feeling something and you liked me just now? Ah, what a bad woman. Damn hooligan. Hearing this, Murasame Rain rolled her eyes at Dustless and immediately picked up the pillow and smashed it over. That's her. On the other side, Tokisaki Kurumi quietly sneaked, staring at the girl walking alone in front of her, and a smug smile appeared on her face. Dustless, right? This time, I must make you kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. Even if I can't deal with you, dealing with such a child is still a piece of cake for me. Tokisaki Kurumi proudly said to herself. The girl who was focused on by her eyes was Yansei. Among all the elves, the kindest was Yansei. She wasn't good at fighting, and even if she defeated the opponent, she wouldn't kill the enemy. As the saying goes, pick the soft persimmon. After careful consideration, Tokisaki Kurumi naturally chose Yansei. She wanted to capture this weak girl, and use her to threaten Dustless. If you want to blame someone, blame Dustless. Who told that guy to refuse to merge with me? Goodbye, girl. Tokisaki Kurumi picked up the ancient pistol and aimed at Yansei. The corner of her mouth outlined a cold arc. When she was about to pull the trigger, a cold wind suddenly came from behind, and a bone-chilling arm was placed on her shoulder. Who is it? Bang. Tokisaki Kurumi was startled at first, but she immediately turned around and fired. Crack. One had to admit that Tokisaki Kurumi's gun skills were at the peak of perfection. Even though it was a shot based on her intuition, it still blasted Dustless's head and tore a fist-sized hole in it. It's you. After seeing who it was, Tokisaki Kurumi's nerves tensed up. She looked at the hole in Dustless's forehead and didn't dare to underestimate or be careless. After several exchanges, Tokisaki Kurumi understood how heaven-defying Dustless was. The glint fruit's elemental transformation, ability could easily heal this kind of injury. You've got guts. I was wondering why I didn't see you in school. So you've been plotting against Yansei. Fortunately, I had the foresight to leave the Flying Thunder God Sorcerer on you. Otherwise, I might have succeeded this time. His forehead glowed faintly, and his wounds instantly healed. Dustless stared at Tokisaki Kurumi as if nothing had happened. Unlike before, Dustless was clearly enraged this time. His eyes flickered with a cold light of destruction. Kiki. Dustless laughed sinisterly as he stared at Tokisaki Kurumi. Tokisaki Kurumi, haven't you always wanted to fuse with me? I'll fulfill your wish this time. Really? Tokisaki Kurumi was stunned for a moment before rejoicing. However, when she saw Dustless's actions, her joy was quickly replaced by endless fear. What are you trying to do? Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes flickered. She saw Dustless slowly walking over and taking off his jacket. His invasive eyes made Tokisaki Kurumi uncomfortable as a silent fear spread through her body. What am I trying to do? Of course, I want to fuse with you. Isn't it great that I'll fulfill your wish? Dustless retorted as he stared at Tokisaki Kurumi. His eyes instantly turned into Sharingan as his eye power surged violently. Kimui. A twisting whirlpool appeared above Tokisaki Kurumi, and she was swallowed before she could react. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-28. In an unfamiliar space, the sky was dark and gloomy. There was no sun, no blue sky, and no white clouds. The so-called sky was just a hazy darkness. What is this place? An extra-dimensional space. Tokisaki Kuzo looked left and right with a dazed expression. Her watery eyes widened as she looked around. No matter how she looked at it, this silent world was like a living hell. Is this Dustless's doing? What an incredible man. He always manages to shock others. Shoving her finger into her mouth, Tokisaki Kurumi said in distress, "This fellow is too weird. I shouldn't have challenged a man." Tokisaki Kurumi was filled with regret. She looked at this unfamiliar world and felt helpless. Her ability was meaningless in this world. Ever since she was born, Tokisaki Kurumi had killed countless people. Among the enemies she had encountered, Dustless was the most monstrous. Whether it was Tashiichi Origami from AST or Changia Shina, they were all nothing compared to Dustless. They were just clowns. Tokisaki Kurumi would rather face 10 Changia Shinas than fight Dustless. His ability was always so shocking and incomprehensible. However, to be able to use such a powerful ability, you're indeed worthy of being the man I value. Soon, the haze on Tokisaki Kurumi's face disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by a crisp laughter. Her fair face was extremely adorable. Tokisaki Kurumi was like a shape-shifting demoness. No one knew what she was thinking. You're in trouble, yet you can still laugh. This is worthy of praise. Your mentality is very good. A faint ripple appeared in the void. A gap slowly enlarged, and Dustless walked out from it. His clean-cut face, wise and confident eyes, and that almost natural indifference. His eyes that were as calm as still water seemed to be able to see through everything. Nothing could escape Dustless's control. Little man, why did you imprison me? Don't tell me you're really going to push me down? Aye. Although I don't mind having a beautiful night with you. Don't you think it's too boring to do that kind of thing in this kind of place with dark clouds covering the sun? Tokisaki Kurumi's words were glib as her eyes narrowed into crescents. Her perfect face coupled with her soft voice was as smooth as silk, making it hard for anyone to reject her. It had to be said that Tokisaki Kurumi was a perfect person. Although she wasn't flawless, she was very skilled in dealing with men. Knowing that she couldn't defeat Dustless with her own strength, she immediately adopted a soft approach. Spoil sport? So what? Do you have a choice now? Do you have the right to negotiate with me? Don't get carried away, Tokisaki Kurumi. Dustless looked at her coldly. Although he felt that this girl was not bad, it was absolutely unforgivable for her to make a move on the people he cared about. If you speak so coldly, I will be very sad. Tokisaki Kurumi revealed a sad expression. Her eyes were watery as if she was about to cry. It was truly a pitiful sight. Keep acting. Keep acting. However, Dustless only responded with a sneer. Tokisaki Kurumi's ability to show off was not bad, but it was a pity that she chose the wrong person this time. Dustless was like a stone that didn't understand women's feelings. No matter how Tokisaki Kurumi tried to seduce him, he remained unmoved. Stinking brat, let me out. After a while, seeing that Dustless didn't budge, Tokisaki Kurumi finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She didn't want to spend the rest of her life in this silent world. I'm stronger than you, so what if I don't listen to you? Are you going to bite me? Dustless said coldly. Let's talk nicely. Why don't we both take a step back? If both sides suffer, it will only benefit AST. Tokisaki Kurumi looked at Dustless with a helpless smile. Her tone was inevitably weaker than before. I'm stronger than you. Dustless's reply was the same as before. Bastard, don't be so shameless. Tokisaki Kurumi's face was ashen. I'm stronger than you. You. Hearing this, Tokisaki Kurumi looked at Dustless with hatred. Her heart was filled with bitterness. Just as Dustless said, he was stronger than her and could easily take the life of the weak. On the other hand, Tokisaki Kurumi had no choice. How about this? Taking a deep breath, Tokisaki Kurumi had no choice but to throw caution to the wind. I swear I won't trouble you anymore. How about you let me out? In the future we'll go our separate ways. I'm stronger than you. My words are final. Dustless looked up at the sky. His words made Tokisaki Kurumi vomit blood. You're ruining my good impression of you. Don't be like this, okay? Tokisaki Kurumi laughed, but her face was twitching. It was obvious that she was forcing a smile. Her true intention was to beat Dustless to death. You want to go back? Sure, kneel down and give me a massage. With a wave of his hand, a stool appeared at Dustless's feet. He sat on it with a satisfied expression and closed his eyes to rest. You brat, don't push your luck. Seeing this, Tokisaki Kurumi clenched her teeth in anger. Her eyes turned red. This damn brat is too much of a bully. He wants me to massage his annoying enemy's back? Dream on. Then don't go out for the rest of your life. Goodbye. As soon as he finished speaking, the void around Dustless rippled and gradually swallowed his body. Wait, you win. I agree. Seeing that Dustless was about to disappear, Tokisaki Kurumi panicked. If she was the only one left in this dead world, she might as well kill herself. She quickly agreed to Dustless's condition. You want to fight with me? I'll play you to death this time. Dustless smiled without saying a word. He sat on the chair and crossed his legs comfortably. If you don't work hard, I'll let you spend the rest of your life in this world and slowly torture you. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-29. Tokisaki Kurumi was also having a headache. Rather than spending the rest of her life alone in this world, it would be better to just kill her. The most horrifying way to die wasn't to suffer all kinds of torture or pain, but to live in a completely different world without anyone to communicate with, and without the concept of time. Living in such an environment for a long time would drive one crazy. Serve me well if you know what's good for you. If you anger me, you'll have to bear the consequences. Dustless was lying on the chair comfortably. Behind him was Tokisaki Kurumi, who was unwilling but could only endure. Brat, don't be so smug. If you fall into my hands in the future. Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes flickered with resentment. All along, she had been pranked by Dustless many times, and had accumulated a bellyful of resentment. Sadly, Dustless was always one step ahead of her, and she was always the one suffering. Just you wait. Standing behind Dustless, Tokisaki Kurumi pinched Dustless's shoulder. Although it was a massage, her face was filled with displeasure. She wanted to strangle Dustless to death. Be gentler. Dustless's eyes rolled as he scolded. Be careful, or I'll throw you into this world and lock you up for 10 years. There won't be anyone or any life to accompany you. You'll only be left with eternal loneliness. I'll bear with it. Tokisaki Kuzo was also helpless against Dustless's methods. He looked around the dark world and couldn't help but shiver. To be imprisoned in such a place where people were neither human nor ghost was better off dead. Not bad. You have the potential to be a maid. Dustless's face was filled with pleasure. After being scolded by him, Tokisaki Kurumi's techniques were much more delicate and appropriate. Now that he thought about it, the old saying was right. If you don't punish someone for 3 days, they'll become unruly. Sometimes arrogant women like Tokisaki Kurumi needed to be taught a lesson to make them obedient. Time flew by, and unknowingly, a few hours had passed. This guy really knows how to enjoy himself. Tokisaki Kurumi massaged her sore shoulders in anger. Every time she met Dustless, she would be filled with anger and frustration. But she had nowhere to vent it, which made her feel especially aggrieved. Hey, you should let me go. You actually fell asleep. Seeing that Dustless was ignoring her, Tokisaki Kurumi walked over and saw Dustless squinting his eyes with a serene expression. His breathing was even. Take a closer look. This fellow is only not annoying when he's sleeping. She stared at Wu Chen's face. The more she looked at his handsome face, the more interesting it felt. It gave her a feeling of reliability and trustworthiness. Tokisaki Kurumi couldn't help but move closer to Wu Chen. Their cheeks were almost touching. Should I take this opportunity to ambush her? Tokisaki Kuzo's eyes darted around. At this moment, Dustless was full of openings. His entire body was full of openings. A sneak attack would definitely succeed. If you want to take this opportunity to kill me, then save it. Don't do anything stupid. An indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Tokisaki Kurumi glanced over and saw that Dustless had already opened his eyes. His deep and bright eyes were calmly looking at Tokisaki Kurumi. He seemed to have a card up his sleeve. Hee. Tokisaki Kurumi giggled and distanced herself from Dustless. It was best to distance herself from such a dangerous person. Can you let me go now? Tokisaki Kurumi blinked her seductive eyes and asked. Of course, but... Dustless smiled and glanced at Tokisaki Kurumi a few more times before retracting his gaze. He closed his eyes and ignored Tokisaki Kurumi. Are you trying to go back on your word? Tokisaki Kurumi's white oval face was filled with anger. If it wasn't for the fact that she had no other choice, she would have beaten Dustless to death. It was bad enough that this brat was despicable, but now he wanted to burn the bridge after crossing the river. She had already massaged his back and legs. This brat wanted to go back on his word after enjoying himself. I will naturally abide by the agreement. You can rest assured. Dustless gave the girl a comforting look, indicating for her to relax. He then said indifferently, as the saying goes, one must always be wary of others. What if you still try to harm Toka and the others after I let you go? Tokisaki Kurumi's mouth trembled as she took a deep breath to calm her emotions. She forced a smile and said, I can swear that I will never harm you again. I still don't believe you. Dustless looked at Tokisaki Kurumi with suspicion. Then what do you want to do? Kill me? Tokisaki Kurumi suppressed her anger and asked. Wu Chen sorted out his thoughts and replied. It's very simple. From now on you will follow me. Just like 10 fragrances and 4 elements. You want to restrict my freedom? Wishful thinking. Tokisaki Kurumi rejected decisively. Following Dustless around all day was equivalent to having her freedom restricted. It was worse than death. Then you should reflect on your actions, Miss Tokisaki Kurumi. Dustless said without a care. His gaze did not change. He had already expected Tokisaki Kurumi to reject his terms, so he was not surprised. I still have things to do, so I won't play with you anymore. Goodbye. I will come again when you are enlightened. The space above Dustless's head rippled as a gap grew bigger and bigger, quickly swallowing Dustless's body. You have to bring me along if you want to leave. Tokisaki Kurumi's gaze froze as she stomped on the ground and jumped up to grab Dustless's right leg. Childish. Activating the glint fruit, Dustless's right leg turned into elemental energy. Naturally, Tokisaki Kurumi's hand missed and fell to the ground pathetically. At the same time, Dustless returned to the real world. In fact, Dustless had wanted to imprison Tokisaki Kurumi for a long time. This girl was extremely ambitious, and would use any despicable means to achieve her goals. Tokisaki Kurumi had killed countless people and had no bottom line. For the safety of others, he could only imprison Tokisaki Kurumi temporarily, hoping that she would come to her senses one day and repent. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Oh. Chapter 2130. After solving Tokisaki Kurumi's problem, Dustless leisurely escaped from the Kamui space. His face was as calm as a breeze, and he had a gentle smile on his face. In the future, he won't have to worry about Tokisaki Kurumi anymore. Time is merciless, and sooner or later, her patience and sharpness will be exhausted. In the end, she will succumb under Dustless's feet. Bang bang bang. Inside the Kamui space, it was just as Dustless had predicted. Tokisaki Kurumi discovered that there was no exit in this world. She stomped her feet in frustration, venting her frustrations and depression. However, her 2 pairs of delicate feet collapsed, and no one responded to her. Is it really as Dustless said? Am I the only one in this world? Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes widened as she looked around. She wanted to drag the entire world into her eyes, but after looking around for a long time, she didn't find a single person. No, let alone a person. She didn't even find a single life form. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 day, 2 days. Tokisaki Kurumi finally confirmed that this was a dead space without any life. After another 2 days, Tokisaki Kurumi realized that she couldn't endure it any longer. Wasting her time alone was worse than death. Dustless, come out. I agree to your conditions. Tokisaki Kurumi's cries filled the Kamui space. Her sorrowful tone was filled with longing and reluctance to part with this world. After all, she was still a young girl, and it was normal for her to yearn for the bustling outside world. Tokisaki Kurumi felt a chill run down her spine at the thought of being a lonely ghost in a dead space. Dustless, come out. I know you're watching from a corner. I admit defeat. I agree to your conditions. Come out. Tokisaki Kurumi screamed hysterically, but what made her collapse was that no one responded to her in this boundless world. Everything was looking at her coldly. During this period, Dustless naturally noticed Tokisaki Kurumi's transformation. He was like a wooden block as he watched Tokisaki Kurumi's transformation. Only by completely obliterating the persistence in her heart will this woman be sensible. If I let this woman out now, I might just be releasing a hungry wolf. Let her continue to starve for the time being. Dustless mumbled. At the same time, he looked at the girls who were dressing up and frowned. It's just a concert. Is there a need to make it so grand? Of course you don't understand a girl's thoughts. Murasame Rain rolled her eyes at Dustless, and her tone was full of resentment. It seemed that she was still upset about being spanked by Dustless last time. In front of the person she likes, a girl always wants to show her perfect self, so she must dress carefully. Is that so? Dustless muttered as he looked at the scenery outside the window. His empty eyes were a little dazed for a moment. By the way, I heard from Kotori that you captured Tokisaki Kurumi alive and imprisoned her? Murasame Rain took a sip of her coffee and looked at Dustless with a questioning gaze. That's right. Dustless nodded slightly and didn't hide it. He told Kotori about the news of imprisoning Tokisaki Kurumi 2 days ago. Do you want to collect her data? Dustless asked softly. He closed his eyes and said calmly, that's possible. You agreed so easily? Is this still the Dustless I know? The one who bargains for everything? Murasame Rain stared at Dustless with a strange smile on her face. She immediately shook her head. No, it's useless to collect Tokisaki Kurumi's data. That woman is very smart. The so-called data we collected before was deliberately falsified by her, and we suffered a big loss. You should continue to imprison her. Although it's a bit unfair to Tokisaki Kurumi, it's not a bad thing to wear down her spirit. Murasame Rain added. She seemed to agree with Dustless's method. Since you said so, then I'll do as you say. Dustless couldn't help but look at Murasame Rain a few more times. He was quite surprised. He thought that Murasame Rain would definitely ask him to release Tokisaki Kurumi, who knew that this time she was unexpectedly easy to talk to. Well, Dustless-kun, let's go see the concert of Night Tempter Meijio. A few extremely eye-catching young girls walked out of their respective bedrooms excitedly and bounced towards Wu Chun. The joy on everyone's face was clearly visible. You guys are very beautiful. Dustless was stunned for a few seconds, and then he smiled and gave them a thumbs up. His eyes swept past Yatatoka, Shirinai, Yatu, and Yatu. He couldn't help but nod, showing an expression of appreciation. They were originally the type with exquisite features and outstanding looks. Now that they had spent a lot of effort on makeup, their appearances became even more impeccable. Every one of them was gorgeously dressed, as dazzling as the bright moon in the night sky. Why aren't you leaving? If you have time to be long-winded here, it's better to find a good place to rest early. Night Tempter Meijio's concert is very popular. Seeing Dustless and others in a daze, Itsuka Kotori hurriedly scolded with dissatisfaction. Why didn't I see Wu Chun, that stinking brat, praise me? Damn it, could it be because 10 Fragrance and the others are wearing too revealing clothes? Kotori mumbled in her heart. Due to the fact that she still had to work, Kotori was still wearing the same commander uniform as before. She had a cute necktie, and she subconsciously exuded a dignified aura. Her two slanted eyes were very bright, and she gave off a heroic vibe. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2131. It was a woman's nature to love beauty. After Wu Chen's praise, everyone's face was surging with cheerful smiles. Their hearts were also filled with indescribable excitement. Even though they knew that Wu Chen was flattering them, they were still exceptionally happy. Sometimes, mushy words were disgusting, but they were the most useful. Let's go. That seductive Meijio is a troublesome character. Murasame Rain reminded them. They had investigated Meijio before, and found that this girl was very similar to Itsuka Kotori. She was also a human with the power of an elf, and she had a very strange fetish, being a lesbian. It will be much harder to take down this elf than before. Itsuka Kotori sighed. Seductress Meijio's personality was very strange. She hated men so much that her favorability would drop below that of a cockroach. You have to do your best, Dustless. Itsuka Kotori gave Dustless an encouraging look and prayed silently. Meijio's concert was at the square in front of the Tachibana station in the western part of Heavenly Palace City. It took Dustless and his group about 10 minutes to arrive. Are you kidding me? It's just a concert. Why are there so many people? After getting out of the car, Dustless looked at the scene in front of him in shock. From afar, the whole square was filled with people. It was almost like a sea of people. It was so crowded that it was difficult to move. Let's wait patiently. This is the reason why we're late. If we were a little earlier, there would be even more people, and we might even be stuck on the road. Itsuka Kotori rolled her eyes. She wasn't surprised by this at all. Do you want me to chase these people away? Night Sword God Toka blinked her eyes and looked at Dustless expectantly. It seemed like she only needed one command from Dustless, and she would do it. This guy. Itsuka Kotori was speechless. In the past, Toka's favorability towards Dustless was 100%. Now she had evolved into a love-struck fool. What frustrated Itsuka Kotori the most was that Dustless did not invest in her at all. All he did was take her out to eat all sorts of delicacies. This caused Toka to like Dustless even more. Leave it to me, this is a piece of cake. 8-Dance Yagiya patted her chest and promised. Then a large amount of spiritual energy fluctuations erupted from her body. Boom boom boom. The originally bright sky was suddenly filled with strong winds. It was as if a tornado had suddenly appeared. Many people who were caught off guard were blown away by the wind. What a bunch of unscrupulous people. How dare they release their spiritual energy in broad daylight? Aren't they afraid of being discovered by the other members of AST? Well, it makes sense. Birds of a feather flock together. Dustless is always acting like the boss of the world. His friends don't follow the rules either. In a corner about 10 meters away from Itsuka Kodori and the others, a thin girl wearing a hat was observing Toka and the others with her watery eyes. She did not want to let go of any loopholes. Of course, the girl noticed Yagiya's actions. She glanced at the mysterious girl who was secretly observing Toka and the others. Even though she was wearing a hat, it was hard to hide her beautiful and peaceful face. Her lively eyes were bright and lively. The girl was also holding a small bag of hardtack in her hand. She was eating while observing Toka and the others. Strange, where did Dustless go? Her gaze suddenly flickered a few times, and the biscuit that was stuffed into her mouth was also abruptly put down. Unknowingly, Wu-chan was like a ghost that came and went without a trace, and disappeared from the girl's clear eyes. Girl, are you looking for me? You're not here to spy on me, are you? A large, warm hand suddenly clasped the young girl's shoulder from behind. The mysterious man looked at the young girl in front of him with a faint smile on his face. Who is it? The girl's heart skipped a beat. The moment she turned around, she saw a familiar face. She asked subconsciously, Dustless? Did you notice me? The girl who was secretly monitoring Dustless and the others was Toka Origami. Wu-chan nodded and said with a light smile. Of course I noticed. Since the moment we left home, you have been secretly following us. Toka Origami bit her lips and whispered. Don't tell me you have eyes behind your head as well? You guessed it right. No, I didn't. Dustless shook his finger and said calmly. You want to get close to me without me noticing? You're still far from it. All right, now tell me your purpose. Toka Origami obviously hesitated. She lowered her head and her eyes flashed with a strange luster. Is it hard to say? Dustless frowned and touched the girl's embarrassed face. He did not make things difficult for the girl and smiled gently. If that's the case, you don't have to tell me. I might have already thought of it. When you kill or capture the elves, I just hope you can stay away from me. Yuichi Origami took a deep breath and looked around. After making sure that there were no AST members around, she pulled Dustless into the corner. She stood on her tiptoes and said softly, You have to be careful these days. The higher-ups have made a secret plan, and they might want to deal with you. Deal with me? Hearing this, Dustless laughed and said casually, Come on, come on. I'll smash as many people as you come. You misunderstood me. It's not about dealing with you. Toka Origami shook her head. After hesitating for a few seconds, she remembered that Dustless saved her parents. She gritted her teeth and said, I heard that they might be dealing with Toka. You have to be careful. Toka. Wu-chan's pupils suddenly constricted a few times, and a dense viciousness flashed across his face. In his eyes, there was even a trace of soul-stirring, ghastly killing intent. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2132. You Dustless. Are you okay? You look so scary just now. Toichi Origami looked at Dustless, whose expression had changed greatly, and instinctively took a few steps back. His scarlet eyes were filled with a gloomy aura of death. Even the sharp-eyed Toichi Origami could see that there was a chill rolling in the air around Dustless. Toichi Origami's face was as pale as frost. She found that her chest seemed to be carrying a mountain. It was difficult to breathe, and she could suffocate at any time. It seems that the Night Sword God Toka is Dustless's beloved daughter. And those girls are probably the same. As long as we dare to touch them, we will inevitably suffer a disaster. I hope that the higher-ups can give up this unrealistic plan and don't burn themselves. Toichi Origami's face was unusually stiff. The aura that disappeared in an instant just now gave her the illusion that AST had challenged a devil who had done all kinds of bad things, and she could be crushed by the furious Dustless at any time. I'm fine. Dustless softly responded and looked at Toichi Origami a few more times. His tone had a rare trace of gentleness. Origami, if I remember correctly, your original purpose of joining AST was to avenge your parents and destroy the elves, right? I hope that there will no longer be a child in the world who has the same tragedy as you. Yes. Toichi Origami nodded slightly and said bluntly, "When I learned that my parents were killed by the elves, I hated the elves to the core. So I resolutely joined AST and underwent hellish training. Today, I finally have some small achievements." Small achievements? Wu Chen laughed involuntarily and scratched the girl's delicate nose. "You're already the strongest in AST. Among the humans, you're also second to none. Don't belittle yourself. Besides, your situation is different from others." At this point, Dustless suddenly became silent. As a transmigrator, he knew some unknown inside stories. Toichi Origami was not only a member of AST, but she was also a proper elf. Besides what? Seeing that Dustless was silent and his eyes were flickering, no one knew what he was thinking. Origami asked curiously, "Is there something special about me?" "Of course there is. You will find out in the future." Dustless responded with a smile. It was better to keep silent for the time being. In the future, Origami would understand. Now that your parents have been resurrected, your hatred towards the elves must have dissipated, right? Why don't you leave AST? You and Shixiang are classmates, so you know her personality. Dustless's words were shocking. He wanted to poach AST and pull Yuichi Origami into his camp. Koichi Origami fell silent. Although her hatred for Itsuka Kotori had disappeared, it was still difficult for her to integrate into Dustless's team in an instant. Although my relationship with Nightblade God Toka is not harmonious, it is undeniable that she is indeed a good girl. Yuichi Origami sighed. She still believed in her own vision. That's right. There's no such thing as good or bad in this world. Even if there is a bad person, they have the right to repent and start over. Moreover, AST can't judge a person's good or bad. Dustless said softly, and then explained lazily. Besides, don't you think the organization behind you is strange? They used to kill elves, but this time they want to capture Shixiang alive. Don't you have doubts about this? Origami, in my heart, you have always been a very smart girl. Really? Origami's little face blushed. Obviously, she was a little shy. This was the first time she heard Dustless praise her. Of course. Dustless nodded seriously and said in a deep voice, "Itsuka Shido's sister Chongoya Shina is a living example. I hope you will not follow in her footsteps." Origami's face suddenly stiffened, and a flash of gloominess flashed across her face. "It seems that you also understand Chongoya Shina's physical condition. That's for the best. I don't have to explain any more nonsense. There are some things that I don't need to explain to you. You should understand that in this world, anything related to the organization is absolutely not clean. After peeling off the bright outer layer, you will find that the soul inside is just a rotten apple." Dustless took a deep look at Origami, who was in a daze, and then left. Night Beauty Gio's concert was about to start. If Shixiang and the others could not find him, they might do something out of line. Wait a minute. Dustless had just taken a few steps when Origami stopped him. "If one day I leave AST, will you take me in?" Origami's watery eyes were wide open and unusually lively. Although she kept calm, Dustless could still hear some palpitation in her tone. It was enough to see that Origami was very nervous at the moment. "That's for sure." Dustless answered seriously. "Even if it's for a lifetime, as long as you don't feel bored and sleepy, you can stay at any time. My door here is always open for you." "Are you sure?" Origami's eyes suddenly lit up, and she looked at Dustless with a happy face. Seeing the girls cheering, Dustless could not help but be speechless. What he said was completely from the bottom of his heart. Even if he took Origami in at most, he would add an extra pair of chopsticks. It was no big deal. Perhaps in Origami's heart, she misunderstood the meaning of Dustless's words, which was why she was so excited. Moi. While Dustless was complaining in his heart, Origami left her lips on Dustless's cheek without leaving a trace. "Remember to keep your promise in the future." As soon as her voice fell, Origami skipped away. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2133. Girls these days are so unrestrained. Wu Chen rubbed the remaining water stains on his cheeks, and his face was filled with helplessness. Looking at the back of Yuichi origami, Wu Chen knew that he would never get rid of this burden in the future. In other words, Tabichi origami was going to follow him for the rest of her life. Is it because I brought her parents back to life that Tabichi origami is grateful to me? Dustless mumbled to himself as he walked toward Itsuka Kotori and the others. Seriously, the concert is about to start. Why are you still walking around? Aren't you afraid of losing your way? Itsuka Kotori put her hands on her waist and said aggressively, I'm not a person with no sense of direction. Dustless was speechless. He didn't know when Itsuka Kotori started to pick on him. Looks like I'll have to wait for a while. Looking at the sea of people in front of him, the entrance was almost full. It would take at least 10 minutes for them to enter the venue. I'm going to buy some juice. I'll be back soon. As soon as he finished speaking, Dustless left in a carefree manner. He didn't even give Kotori a chance to refute. He directly transformed into a gust of wind and drifted away in an exceptionally carefree and ethereal manner. Damn you, you're fast. Itsuka Kotori crossed her arms and stomped her feet. Commander. Seeing Dustless leaving, Rain Murasame came over and giggled. Didn't you notice? You've been picking on Dustless recently, especially when it comes to girls. Did I? Itsuka Kotori frowned and said proudly. Why would I do that? I would never pick on a petty man like him. It must be your illusion. Illusion. Rain Murasame rolled her eyes. She wasn't the only one who thought so. Many people thought Itsuka Kotori was doing it on purpose. Especially after Dustless sealed Itsuka Kotori's power last time. The feeling was even more obvious. Seriously, you want me to watch a concert with a bunch of young people? Are you kidding me? Dustless complained in front of the vending machine. Dustless had lived for too long. Although he looked young, he was old enough to be their ancestor. It was normal for young people to have different thoughts. It's about time. Dustless looked at the plastic juice and nodded with satisfaction. Not only were there soft drinks and soft drinks, there were also snacks that Tabichi liked. Bang! The instant he turned around and left, Dustless suddenly bumped into a figure. Moreover, because Dustless's strength was too great, he directly knocked that figure to the ground. Sorry, I didn't mean it. After seeing it was a girl, Dustless scratched his head awkwardly and quickly helped the girl who fell to the ground. Stay away from me, stinky man. Who would have thought that as soon as Wu Chen touched the other party's boneless jade hand, the girl who was bumped into by Wu Chen immediately screamed, as if she had met the most feared cockroach or mouse. It's really hateful. The concert will start soon. I wanted to buy a glass of juice to moisten my throat. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. The girl complained and stood up. Her resentment rose to the sky. You are. After Dustless retracted his arm, he stared at the girl in front of him with some surprise and subconsciously asked, That are you Miss Seducing Meijio? Humph. Unexpectedly, the girl just snorted and looked at Wu Chen seriously. When she saw his white skin, she was shocked. Then she sighed silently. You're so beautiful. Why are you a man? It would be great if it was a girl. Due to some shadows in the past, Seducing Meijio hated men very much and hated them to the bone. Don't think that you can forget it after bumping into me and apologizing. Seducing Meijio stared at Dustless and swept her eyes over him. She seemed to be thinking about how to get Dustless to compensate her with something valuable. Seducing Meijio, what do you want? Dustless asked faintly. You have to call me Lord. Seducing Meijio stared at Dustless with her eyes. Lord. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly and couldn't help but take a few more glances at the girl. Immediately he said coldly, You are quite beautiful, but your temper is too bad. Forgive me for not accompanying you. Goodbye. As his voice fell, Dustless ignored Seducing Meijio's stunned eyes and left her with his back view. You bastard dare to ignore me? Seducing Meijio was stunned. Her eyes widened, and she immediately pinched her skin a few times. The intense pain made her realize that this was not a dream. Seducing Meijio was ignored by a man, no, by a cockroach. Outrageous. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Seducing Meijio didn't know where the strength came from. Seducing Meijio just jumped and blocked Dustless in front of her. She immediately scolded angrily. Why are you so impolite? Do you have any manners? Do you think you can just apologize after bumping into others and dirtying their clothes? And do you know who I am? What I said before was nonsense. You mainly want to ask if I know you, right? Dustless pointed to the huge billboard. There was a portrait of a girl on it that was exactly the same as Seducing Meijio. He said, You are that Seducing Meijio, right? You sing very well, but whether you sing well or not, it has nothing to do with me. Dustless was very rude and sarcastic. He was not the kind of person who chased after stars or was unable to walk when he saw a beauty. Although Seducing Meijio's appearance was not bad, and she belonged to the type who was good at both literature and martial arts, Dustless knew a lot of such beautiful women. There were even many female confidants in the system who were more outstanding than Seducing Meijio. Hearing this, Seducing Meijio trembled with anger. Since her debut and fame, this was the first time someone had degraded her as worthless. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Oh. Chapter 2134. What about you? Do you have any opinion? I tell you, I have seen countless beautiful women in my life. In the eyes of those people, you are very ordinary and plain. Dustless suddenly attacked, and this proud girl was really self-righteous. Dustless also knew that Temptress Meijio had a shadow and was more hostile to men, but she couldn't kill a boat of men because of a scum. Good boy, you have guts. Temptress Meijio bit her thin lips and glared. When she was about to teach Dustless a lesson, she suddenly saw the concert ticket in his hand and suddenly giggled. She was like a blooming snow lotus, elegant and refined. She was different. Although she was very cold and piercing, it was difficult to dislike her. Although this chick is a little proud, I have to say that she does have the capital to be proud. The crisp laughter was like the sound of nature, just like the code name of Temptress Meijio as an elf, songstress. Her talent in singing was really superior. You keep saying that you hate me, but you still came to my concert. Is this a confession without being pressed? With her hands on her hips, Temptress Meijio's aura was very strong and domineering. Her exquisite gem-like eyes were full of the luster of a winner. It seemed that she had already seen the scene of defeating Dustless. Don't call me boy, my name is Dustless. I am enough to be your grandfather. Dustless responded plainly. You. Temptress Meijio was angry and said angrily, Dustless, right? Don't change the subject for me. You haven't answered my question yet. Did you see it? Wu Chun shook the plastic bag in his hand and said with boredom, I'm just accompanying others to your concert. This is your good fortune from your previous life. You. Temptress Meijio glared at Dustless fiercely, and her silver teeth were almost broken. Can this hateful bastard speak more irritating? Who is Temptress Meijio? She was the goddess of countless men's dreams. Her heavenly voice had won the hearts of countless men. Among her fans, 90% were men. However, this bastard in front of her didn't give her any face. He even mocked her time and time again. It was simply unforgivable. You'll be my slave soon. Tempting Night Beauty Gio's lips curled into a cold arc. She suddenly cleared her throat, and a pleasant song came out of her mouth. The rhythm was very good, the intonation was very elegant and gentle, and the voice was also very magnetic and soft. It sounded quite good. However, Dustless wasn't interested in it. He just stared at the entrance in the distance. When he saw that Itsuka Kotori and the others were about to enter the venue, he muttered to himself, Time's up, let's go back. Leaving such a sentence, Wu Chun turned around and left. You don't go? Hey, are you kidding me? You came here to listen to my concert, and now I'm singing for you alone. How blissful is that? Do you understand? Temptress Meijio was dumbfounded. She stared at Wu Chun, who was leaving straight away. For a moment, she was dumbfounded. As long as she called, She didn't know how many men would go through water and tread on fire for her, and agree to all her requests. But what was the matter with this hateful stinky brat? He's really a stone in the latrine pit. He's smelly and stubborn. Are you crazy? Dustless turned around and said to Temptress Magio. She said coldly, I'll say it again. Your brother's singing is good. What does it have to do with me? I'm just here to accompany someone else. And, do you see this? Dustless took out 2 pieces of ear cotton and said very seriously, I'll sleep when you sing later. To be honest, I'm afraid that you'll disturb my sleep. Goodbye, don't call me again. You bastard, stop right there. I didn't allow you to leave. Temptress Magio quickly chased after Dustless. Unfortunately, she was too slow and didn't manage to grab hold of his hand. Despicable brat, you forced me to do this. Seeing this, Temptress Magio was furious. She clasped her hands together and sang again with a devout expression. The sound of nature once again came out of her throat. It also had a special power that she had never had before. This is, when the song entered Dustless's ears, his body suddenly stopped. Moreover, his eyes were empty and he was very dull. He had turned into a walking corpse. Come here. Temptress Magio smiled arrogantly. This time Dustless didn't violate Temptress Magio's will. He turned around obediently. His eyes were hazy. It was obvious that he had been controlled by Temptress Magio's singing. You still want to fight with me? Despicable men are all the same. Temptress Magio said disdainfully. She immediately hooked her white fingers and smiled charmingly. Come here. As soon as her voice fell, Dustless walked over in a daze. I'm so tired. Temptress Magio sighed. After talking to Dustless for a while, she was very angry. She immediately glared at Dustless fiercely. Watch how I deal with you. At the same time, Dustless also walked over to Temptress Magio. His eyes were already dull. Temptress Magio was very satisfied when she saw Dustless's appearance. You fought with me and said so many disgusting words. Don't think that I will let you go so easily. Xiao Magio curiously walked around Dustless and whispered, This guy is so beautiful and his skin is so white. It's even better than mine. It's hard to suspect that he's a boy. How disappointing. Temptress Magio lamented. Her dead heart suddenly throbbed. She sincerely hoped that Dustless was a fair and beautiful girl. But, Temptress Magio stared at Itsuka Kotori and the others. She stroked her chin and smiled. Leave your female companions to me. I will serve them well. Temptress Magio chuckled, but she didn't see Dustless's cold smile. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 reviews plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2135. How should I deal with you, brat? You are so disrespectful to me. I can't let you go so easily. I must leave you with an unforgettable shadow. Temptress Magio circled around Dustless, fiddling with her slender fingers. Her watery eyes flickered. She was obviously thinking about how to deal with Dustless. Kneel down. Temptress Magio's eyes rolled, and she ordered seriously. However, Dustless didn't appreciate it. Like a stone, he stood motionless. His dull eyes were empty, without the slightest emotion. You don't listen to me? How is that possible? You were obedient just now. Temptress Magio looked at Dustless in a daze. Her eyes were wide open, and she looked like a curious baby. Could it be that my ability has failed? Temptress Magio frowned. In desperation, she cleared her throat and immediately sang a song again. She tried to control Dustless again, and make this guy obey her orders. The beautiful and pleasant song came out of Temptress Magio's mouth again. Unfortunately, Dustless still stood motionless like a stone. Temptress Magio was suddenly dumbfounded. She ordered Dustless to kneel down again, but the other party ignored her. Impossible, my ability can't fail. Temptress Magio's eyes were uncertain. A terrible thought suddenly emerged in her mind. If her ability disappeared, what should she do? Your ability didn't fail, but it doesn't work on me. At this moment, Dustless spoke lazily. His dull eyes also recovered the flickering spirit. There was a sarcastic arc at the corner of his mouth. You are okay? Temptress Magio's small mouth was round and full of confusion. Dustless still obeyed her orders just now. Of course I am okay. If you can control me, then I would have been torn into pieces. I just want to tell you, don't overestimate yourself. In my eyes, you're just an ordinary person. There's nothing special about you. Dustless said frankly and frankly. He did not give any face to Night Tempter Magio at all. He laughed gloatingly and said, but your embarrassed expression is very beautiful. You. Don't be too proud. Night Temptress Magio was furious and her body erupted with violent spirit power fluctuations. The void suddenly changed subtly and surging spirit power continued to erupt from her body. The power of the elves. Seems like you have good control over it, but I have something to remind you. Dustless stretched lazily and explained. Your concert is about to start. There are still many AST members lingering around. Are you sure you want to fight me? Just wait and see. Hearing this, Temptress Magio's expression was stiff. She retracted her spiritual power and glared at Dustless fiercely, as if she wanted to remember this hateful face in her heart forever. After taking a deep look at Dustless, he immediately lured Xiao Magio away. Wait, I haven't asked you to leave yet. In a flash, Dustless blocked in front of Night Temptress Magio. He teased her figure with a teasing smile as if he had found a fun toy. Night Temptress Magio felt a chill and uneasiness. Go away from me, or I won't be polite. Night Temptress Magio glared at him and threatened him impolitely. You are already not polite. Just now, you actually used your spirit power to bewitch me. This is already a provocation to me. If I let you leave safely, wouldn't I lose face? Dustless said slowly. The meaning of his words was to lure Night Temptress Magio to pay the price. Then what do you want? Fight with me? Are you my opponent? Human. Night Temptress Magio said disdainfully. She had to admit that although Dustless was a bit evil, she did not think that she was not Dustless's opponent. Of course, I will take it back with interest. With two strange laughs, Dustless's body turned into a destructive streamer. He flashed behind Night Temptress Magio at an incredible speed, and there was an extremely evil laughter. I heard that you hate men touching you. I just don't believe it. I just want to touch you. Hearing this, Night Temptress Magio was shocked. Her spirit power erupted, and she quickly left. Still want to run? Ignorant. Dustless snorted coldly. He grabbed Night Temptress Magio's shoulder in an instant, and he skillfully lifted Night Temptress Magio's short skirt, revealing her snow-white skin. The white and red perky buttocks were beautiful, and the pure white fat was in his eyes. The scenery was pleasant. Ah, smelly rogue, let go of me. Night Temptress Magio screamed a few times. Her small face was red, and she struggled quickly. Unfortunately, Night Temptress Magio's strength was too weak compared to Dustless. It was useless at all. Pa! A slap fell unceremoniously, and a bright red palm print suddenly appeared on the snow-white skin. You dare to hit my buttocks? Night Temptress Magio looked at the shameless Dustless with a face full of evil interest. At this moment, her beautiful hair stood up, and she wanted to swallow Dustless alive. You still dare to stare at me? Dustless sneered again and again, and then a few more slaps fell unceremoniously. Pa! How about I hit your buttocks? You bite me? But can you beat me? After that, Dustless slapped her again unceremoniously. Pa! How about I hit you? You wanted to control me first, and now I can't retaliate against you? What a domineering, unreasonable and unruly little woman. Dustless ridiculed and unceremoniously taught Night Temptress Magio a lesson. The slaps sounded for more than a dozen times until Night Temptress Magio's white skin turned red. Only then did he reluctantly withdraw his hands. Kill you, I'll definitely kill you. Night Temptress Magio was like a tigress that went berserk. Her eyes emitted a cold light as she looked at the calm Dustless. However, she did not have much confidence in her heart. Sure, if you're not afraid of being hit again, then I'll do as I please. However, the price of provoking me this time will be greater than the dozen slaps just now. Dustless shrugged and was very indifferent. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates. 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Oh. Chapter 2136. You. Aren't you embarrassed to bully a girl? Her white cheeks were flushed red, and after a long time, tempting Meijio finally said such incompetent and sullen words. When her voice fell, even tempting Meijio herself was stunned, as if she did not expect herself to say such cowardly words. In the past, she was the one who bullied others. Who dared to challenge her like this? Only Dustless, this weirdo, was not charmed by her, and even humiliated tempting Meijio again and again. Girl? That's rare. Dustless's face showed a faint smile, and he still teased. From what you did before, I don't think you are a girl anymore. It's rare to see a girl as violent and barbaric as you. Are you still a man? You even bully a girl? Hearing this, Temptress Beauty Jo clenched her fists. If it wasn't for the difference in strength, she really wanted to punch this bastard to death. His face was already infuriating enough, but his words were even more infuriating. Dustless laughed twice, and his eyes suddenly became unscrupulous. He stared at tempting Meijio's plump figure. Do you want to try whether I am a man or not? Stinky rogue. Tempting Meijio's face was slightly red, and she spat softly. Am I wrong? Are you a girl? Dustless continued to tease. You are obviously a tigress. Don't be too proud. Unable to bear it any longer, Xiao Meijio was enraged. Surging waves of spiritual force broke out from her body, and the void suddenly distorted. A terrifying sphere spun and occupied the blue sky. Perhaps it would not be long before it became a terrifying spatial earthquake. You want to fight just because of a disagreement? Sure enough, you are a tigress. Looking at the changes in the sky, Dustless was still teasing the girl. His plain face was fearless as he lazily said, Anyway, even if AST is attracted here, those little girls won't find trouble with me. But you, seductive beauty Miss Gio, if AST knows that you're an elf, can you still live in peace? Hearing these words, Temptress Meijio's expression suddenly stiffened, and her expression suddenly became extremely gloomy. She took a deep breath, stabilized herself, and retracted her spiritual power. She couldn't wait to beat Wu Chen into a pig's head. She sneered. You win, scum. What did you call me? Scum. Dustless showed a pained expression and said resentfully, Sure enough, Tigress is unreasonable. Just wait and see. A fragrant wind blew in front of Dustless, and then charming Knight Meijio disappeared, forever disappearing from Dustless's sight. You run pretty fast. Staring at the back of Temptress Meijio, Dustless picked up the bag and slowly walked to the concert venue. The whole person looked comfortable and did not care about the threat of Temptress Meijio. In Dustless's view, this was just asking for humiliation. With the strength of Knight Tempter Meijio, she was still far from being able to shake him. In the concert venue, it was pitch black, and only the stage in front was the most eye-catching. The stage was filled with an overwhelming number of people. Looking around, 9 out of 10 people were male, which was enough to show how popular Temptress Meijio was. Sorry I'm late. Dustless's apologetic voice came from beside Itsuka Kotori's seat. There was a small problem midway, so I was delayed. Small problem? Itsuka Kotori immediately looked at him with dissatisfaction and said with disdain, Someone reported to me that you and Temptress Meijio were flirting with each other. You call that a delay? This guy, hearing this, Dustless almost spat out the drink in his stomach. He glared at Itsuka Kotori. This guy is trying to teach me a lesson. Sure enough, women are easily jealous. Dustless, you actually went behind my back to hook up with someone else's girl? Yasuya Geya glared at Dustless furiously. I must capture you and tie you up, so you don't go around fooling around in the future. No, the most direct way is to castrate you, or make you infatuated with my body. That's the only way to restrain your heart. Agreed. Taking a look at Dustless, Bazu Shisian also showed dissatisfaction. It was extremely rare for her to stand in the same trench as Bazu Yaguya. Victory and defeat had not been decided between the two of them. How could they let an outsider beat them to it? I think so too. Night Sword God Toka also came over to join in the fun. Lingyin taught me a lot of ways to coax men. I must try them out someday. What nonsense are you talking about? Shut up. Dustless's face darkened, and he scolded angrily. That seductress Meijio is a lesbian. She is only interested in girls. The boys who talk to her are more annoying than cockroaches. In desperation, Dustless could only tell the process and the end of the matter, and all the details in the middle. This is bad. Murasame Rain frowned, staring at the surrounding environment, and said uneasily, Dustless offended seductress Meijio, and we are now in the venue of her concert. This is her territory. As long as seductress Meijio greets us, we will be in danger. She doesn't have the guts. Dustless's mouth raised a faint arc. Seductress Meijio thought of him as a jinx and stayed away from him, let alone provoke him. I'm afraid that the word Dustless will become her nightmare. Maybe when she has a nightmare in the future, she will meet Dustless's annoying face. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2137. She doesn't have the guts. The corner of Dustless's mouth raised a faint arc. He was full of confidence, tempting Night Meijio to treat him as a jinx and stay away from him, let alone provoke him. I'm afraid that the words Dustless will become her nightmare. Maybe when she has nightmares in the future, she will meet Dustless's annoying face. Tempting Night Meijio herself hates men very much, even more than cockroaches. The reason is actually very simple. When Tempting Night Meijio became famous, some entertainment companies wanted to use the unspoken rules on her, but Tempting Night Meijio resolutely refused. Some entertainment companies were unwilling to discredit Tempting Night Meijio, causing her to be condemned by the public. It was in this moment of worry that Tempting Night Meijio obtained the powerful power of the elf and resolved this crisis. Since then, she has become extremely hateful of humans. Although she deserves sympathy, she can't hate all the men in the world because of a group of scumbags. She is unreasonable. Dustless muttered to himself, let's just go with the flow. You can watch the concert in peace. Dustless waved his hand and gave everyone a comforting look. At the same time, all the lights on the stage were shining. Tempting Night Meijio and her dance and singing partners were standing on the stage very elegantly. She looks, but she is somewhat beautiful. No wonder she is so arrogant. Dustless stared at the girl for a moment. When he met Tempting Night Meijio just now, she was not dressed up. She was very casual. It was just an ordinary school uniform, but it was already very outstanding. Now, Tempting Night Meijio was wearing a noble dress. She was like a fairy who had fallen to the mortal world. She was beautiful and moving. Her big eyes were very smart. Her delicate little face was white and flawless. She was very sacred. Hello everyone. I am Tempting Night Meijio. Welcome to my concert. Thank you for your long-term support. Today is a special day. Thank you. Tempting Night Meijio gently lifted her dress and immediately bowed with a very elegant expression. There was a comfortable smile on her face. She was very kind and gentle. There was a feeling that one couldn't help but want to open their hearts. Is this still the seductive Meijio? When Dustless saw the girl with a smile on her face, he was speechless. He sighed that the showbiz circle was really deep, and people who were too shallow were not suitable for it. When she met Dustless, Night Temptress Meijio had a humiliating expression. Now the speed of her face change really made Dustless stunned. He had to raise his middle finger to Night Temptress Meijio. The speed at which he changed his expression was faster than flipping through a book. So, on this special day, today's concert will be different from the past. In the following time, I will be inviting my fans to sing with me on stage. Temptress Meijio's shocking revelation on the stage immediately caused countless male compatriots to cheer. The cheers were loud and they all screamed Temptress Meijio's name. A bunch of brainless idiots. To Temptress Meijio, you guys are like cockroaches. No, you guys are even more annoying than cockroaches. Seeing this scene, Dustless curled his lips in disdain and sneered. Don't think too much about it. Seducer Meijio hates men so much. Why would she sing with you? It's just wishful thinking. Dustless bowed his head and muttered to himself. In fact, he couldn't figure out the purpose of Temptress Magio. For this proud and eccentric woman, Dustless was actually quite helpless. Do you think she will take the opportunity to trouble us? Murasame Ling-in looked over and frowned and said, I have investigated the information of Temptress Magio. This kind of thing has never happened before. This time it's a bit weird. You offended her before. Maybe this is a deliberate revenge. Revenge? Dustless heard the words and laughed twice. I don't care. Let her do it. Anyway, she doesn't regret it. The little girl knows the price. You, Murasame Ling-in gave a big supercilious look. She also had a headache about this. Dustless's temper was so casual. Now please. At this moment, Temptress Magio suddenly announced loudly. Her moving voice was like delicious honey exuding a tempting fragrance, attracting everyone's attention in an instant. I'd like to see what sort of trouble you're planning to cause. Dustless's sight also looked over. In fact, he was really a little weak in his heart. He could fight, but singing. I hope you don't do anything stupid, Temptress Magio. Dustless muttered in his heart. He immediately stopped looking at Temptress Magio and closed his eyes to rest calmly. But at the moment when Dustless closed his eyes, Dustless suddenly felt a pair of malicious eyes staring at him. He subconsciously opened his eyes, and suddenly saw a pair of exquisite eyes like brilliant gems. This guy. Is he really going to make me lose face? Dustless's mouth twitched a few times. His eyes looked at each other, and found that the person who was looking at him maliciously was Temptress Magio herself. She raised the corners of her thin lips high, and a victorious smile hung on her charming face. Her quick-witted eyes were full of craftiness, and she looked exactly like a mischievous elf. Could it be that she really wants me to sing with her? Dustless frowned and asked. For his singing skills, Dustless naturally knew that he was tone-deaf. Before he crossed over, he went to KTV with his friends to sing and made a lot of jokes, so Dustless had always been a little tired of singing. If he sang with Temptress Magio this time, he would inevitably become the target of public criticism, and his lifetime reputation would be ruined. Ha ha ha. Itsuka Kotori and others suddenly chuckled and looked at Dustless jokingly. At this moment, Dustless's expression was particularly attractive in their eyes. After all, it was the first time that they saw Dustless so depressed. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2138. Ha ha ha. Itsuka Kotori and the others giggled and looked at Dustless mockingly. When they looked up, they saw Dustless's gloomy face. It was the first time they saw Dustless so annoyed. What are you laughing at? Do you want me to beat all of you up? Wu Chen glanced at the girls angrily. His heart was hazy. His gloomy eyes stared at the Temptress Magio. He sincerely hoped that this little girl would not act recklessly. He was good at fighting and killing, but when it came to singing, Dustless wasn't perfect. Although he knew a lot, he wasn't that good at singing. The song that Magio sang was definitely in Japanese. Dustless wasn't good at it. He had never heard of it before. She was purposely making things difficult for Dustless. However, since Magio had made her move, Dustless had no choice but to take it all on. Now let's welcome number 128 to the stage and sing with me. Magio's crisp voice spread. The audience was as excited as if they had taken drugs. Everyone looked at the seat number excitedly. Damn it, it's not me. Too bad, my goddess is going to sing with someone else. Who is that person? Change seats with me, I'll pay you 1 billion yen. The audience cried out and cursed the lucky number 128. Some people even said that they would pay a lot of money to buy number 128. What's your number? Itsuka Kotori looked at Toka and the others and asked. I'm number 126, Yatsuka said. I'm number 129, Toka said. I'm number 127, Yatsuka said after looking at the seat number under her butt. As soon as she said that, everyone looked at Dustless strangely. He was sitting between Toka and Yatsuka. There was no doubt that he was number 128. This little brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth actually dared to scheme against me. Playing with fire will get burned. Even Wu Chun, who had been fixed, was frowning at this moment. His heart, which had not fluctuated for hundreds of years, splashed a faint ripple. Even if tempting night beauty Jiu was 20 or 30 meters away, Wu Chun could clearly see her smiling face. Aye. Audience number 128, you're so handsome. I'm offering myself to you. Seductive night beauty looked at Wu Chun playfully. Her watery eyes were full of tender feelings. Her charming eyes were like silk. She had a posture of offering herself to him. Kill him, this bastard deserves to die. Countless male fans had their dreams shattered. Each of them was like an angry tiger, glaring at Dustless with an unfriendly look, as if they wanted to perish together and go to hell together. You are blessed, Wu Chun. You have a lot of luck with women. Murasame's voice said. Coquettish fox, you're so blatant. Although Murasame Rain had a gloating expression, the other women all showed dissatisfied expressions. They looked at the seductress Mei Jiu on the stage very unhappily, and they also looked at Wu Chun with resentment. That meant, you said before that you had nothing to do with the seductress Mei Jiu, and you were even an enemy, but now she invited you to sing on the same stage, and you still dare to say that there was no scandal? At the same time, all the audience's eyes were focused on Dustless's head. Everyone was burning with jealousy. They couldn't wait to tear Dustless into pieces. Well, this kid was so lucky. You idiots, she deliberately messed with me and retaliated against me for humiliating her before. This Meiji really knows how to play. She made me the target of public criticism all of a sudden. Dustless found that countless men were looking at him with unkind eyes. They couldn't wait to swallow him alive. He complained incessantly, sighing that he was smart all his life, but now he was stupid. He didn't expect to be defeated by Meiji this time. Besides, not to mention the male audience, even Yadakami and Toka were staring at Dustless angrily. They were obviously complaining that Dustless went out to attract women. Your private life is too unrestrained. You need to control it. Itsuka Kotori was the first to speak. Control my ass. I didn't do anything. I'm living a pure life like a monk. Dustless looked at Itsuka Kotori and complained. Also, didn't you want me to be the conqueror god? Why did you change your mind? Didn't you want me to conquer fairies every day? I'm trying to persuade you on behalf of Toka and Toka. Itsuka Kotori glared at Dustless and sat down without saying anything. Meiji, since you want to play, I'll play with you. Just don't cry. At this point, Wu Chun was no longer entangled. He restrained his complicated thoughts. Under the astonishment of countless people, he calmly walked out of the auditorium and calmly walked to the stage. You want to fight with me? I'll make you cry this time. Meiji was stunned for a second, and then smiled brightly. She thought Dustless would be scared, but he only hesitated for a second, and then walked up to the stage calmly. That was the best outcome. She could embarrass Dustless and make Dustless the public enemy of her fans. He would never have a peaceful life in the future. Thank you for your cooperation. Audience number 128. Meiji had a beautiful smile on her face. When she saw Dustless walk up to her, she whispered, Kid, just you wait. I won't forgive you for what you did before. The show is about to begin. After being spanked by Dustless, Meiji, who hated men, couldn't take it anymore. It's up to you. Anyway, I don't care. I'll take whatever moves you have. Wu Chun responded casually. He immediately took the microphone sent by Night Tempter Meiji with a calm expression. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2139. Damn it. Why is this guy asking for a beating? Whoever kills him for me, I'll give him 1 billion yen. Me too. My goddess has been defiled by a pig. Why is that brat so lucky? What god does he believe in? I'll believe in him in the future. That's right. Because Xiao Meiji had said some ambiguous words to Dustless, It caused all the male compatriots to complain about Dustless. Everyone stared at him with extreme displeasure, with a ferocious look, as if they wanted to rush onto the stage and beat up Dustless. This brat actually defiled their goddess. 10,000 deaths would not be enough to absolve him. Your fans are really crazy. But are you planning to use them to deal with me? What a joke. As an elf, I can't do anything to you, let alone this group of people. It's really funny, children are children. Dustless's cheeks drooped, his lowered gaze spread around, and secretly clenched his fists. If there was an idiot who didn't know what was good for him, he didn't mind teaching him how to behave. No. Xiao Meijia was tempted to approach Dustless. Under the gaze of countless burning eyes, she was very close to Dustless's cheek. She gently blew a breath of hot air on his face, and said with a smile full of admiration, "It's because your charm is too great, my dear. I can't help but fall in love with you." These words were like igniting a barrel of gunpowder, and the explosive atmosphere of the entire concert reached its peak. Damn it, whoever kills that brat, I'll give 10 billion yen. I really regret not bringing the guns that I secretly hid at home. When the concert is over, I'll make him disappear from this world. The male compatriots wailed angrily, glaring at Dustless with murderous eyes, as if Dustless had once killed their biological parents. It had to be said that once the groupies went crazy, they were really terrifying. Even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, they didn't mind giving it a try. A bunch of idiots. How could they be so easily manipulated? Can't they see that this brat is doing it on purpose? Taking in everyone's gaze, Dustless secretly scolded that there were idiots every year, but there were especially many today. Night Beauty 9 was a lesbian and hated men very much. She must have said that she was infatuated with Dustless on purpose. Her purpose was to help Dustless attract hatred. Aha! This is going to be a good show. Temptress Meijio smiled coquettishly. Her charming face was filled with schadenfreude. Looking at the angry male audience, she was secretly pleased. She was sure that if she added fuel to the fire, this group of people would rush up and beat up Dustless. Do you feel happy about using your fans? Do you feel a sense of accomplishment? Dustless stared at the face in front of him as he asked in a flat tone. Looking at Dustless's eyes, Night Beauty 9 suddenly felt very cold. Looking at Dustless, she had a strange illusion that she was talking to an ice cube. His eyes were calm and filled with endless indifference. Are you admitting defeat? Taking a deep breath, Night Beauty 9 suppressed the throbbing in her heart and asked, "If you admit defeat, I will let you go now, but from now on, you will be my slave Dustless. No, you will be number 001. Are you qualified? Those who dare to talk to me like this have all become a pair of bones. Do you think your end will be better than theirs?" The corners of Dustless's mouth curled up slightly, and he asked with contempt. This arrogant girl was too self-righteous. She was just an elf, and she wanted him to surrender. She was simply delusional. In other words, you refuse my conditions? Then don't regret it. Now is my home ground. I can make you the target of public criticism at any time. Night Beauty 9 smiled dangerously, like a fox's smile. She took a deep look at Dustless, and then looked at the tens of thousands of viewers. Obviously, she came up with some bad ideas. Does this guy really think that I am a soft persimmon that can be pinched at will? Dustless frowned slightly, and the corner of his mouth raised a treacherous smile. He laughed in his heart. Night Beauty 9, since you want to play, I will accompany you to the end. Just don't cry in the end. Cough, cough, cough. Today, in front of all my fans, I want to announce a very serious decision that is related to the second half of my life. Night Tempter Meijio held the microphone and her soft voice resounded through the entire venue. Under everyone's gaze, Night Tempter Meijio finally looked at the indifferent and old-fashioned Wu Chun and laughed secretly. Boy, I'll let you bear the consequences. My fans will definitely not let you off. Dustless Koen. Night Beauty 9 whispered softly and her eyes were blurred. She deserved to be in the entertainment circle. The speed of her face change was absolutely unparalleled. This is bad. Do we need to leave early? Many people saw that we came with Dustless. If we get involved, we will be unlucky. Murasame Rain's eyes were dripping, and she looked around without a trace. She took in the changes in the expressions of the crazy male audience. Everyone looked at Dustless with extreme hatred. This guy had offended the public. There is no doubt that Night Beauty 9 is intentional. The more she flirts with Dustless, the more excited these fans will be. If the situation is out of control, Dustless will be unlucky. It is this guy's fault for attracting bees and butterflies, but he doesn't know that dating should be stopped. Now it's good to let him be unlucky once. Don't worry about it, just watch with peace of mind. Waving her hand, Itsuka Kotori ordered very seriously. Her crystal pupils were obviously jumping to watch a good show, waiting for Dustless to be unlucky. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2140. Murasame Rain was also extremely helpless about this, and at the same time, her eyes were locked on Kotori. Her clear eyes penetrated the depths of people's hearts, looking at Kotori without blinking. Is there something wrong? Kotori's eyes moved over, and she didn't dare to look at Murasame Rain's eyes. She was inexplicably panicked by her, and she had an illusion that the biggest secret in her heart was exposed. Commander, you can't be. Murasame Rain leaned close to Kotori's ear and asked carefully. Commander, these days, your behavior is very strange, especially after Dustless sealed your power. You don't like Dustless, do you? Like her? How can it be? Kotori was like a cat whose tail was stepped on. She stood up from her seat and said without thinking, all the men in the world are dead. I can barely consider that scum. Kotori, you. The rest of the group turned their heads to look at Itsuka Kotori with astonishment in their eyes. They were all wondering if she was mentally ill. Even if not, you don't have to be so excited, right? Murasame Rain saw Kotori, who was staring at her, and rolled her eyes. She was so abnormal because she cared. Anyway, it confirmed Murasame Rain's guess. Arrogant brat, I'd like to see what tricks you have up your sleeves. Bring it on. Blink your eyes and I'll be your slave from now on. Lowering his head to look at Night Beauty Jio's delicate little face, Wu Chen's eyes were bright, and his tone was carefree. Not only that, but Wu Chen also looked at Temptress Meijio with a sneer. At this moment, facing the girl's threat, not only was Wu Chen not afraid, but he also ridiculed Temptress Meijio even more, deliberately provoking her. You dare to be arrogant at this time. Do you really think I'm a useless vase? Night Tempter Meijio was obviously not to be trifled with. Her beautiful eyes were full of fire. After taking a deep look at Wu Chen, she immediately looked at the audience with a smile. She looked arrogant as if she had already seen the wonderful scene of crushing Wu Chen. Today, I have something to announce to everyone. Beauty Joe's eyes were shining, exuding a dazzling brilliance. Her whole body carried a huge momentum, and her gentle eyes gently swept the audience. He, pointing at Dustless, Beauty Joe smiled cunningly. His name is Dustless. From today he is my boyfriend. Please take care of him. These words caused the entire place to fall silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the Temptress Meijio. Countless sounds of heartbreak could be heard. Ah, my goddess was taken by a pig. Boyfriend? Are you kidding me? Who allowed that? I will never agree. I don't agree. That guy looks like a gigolo. Other than being handsome, what use does he have? The scene took advantage of the situation for a while, and then it caused a huge uproar. Countless male spectators glared at Wu Chen with fire in their eyes. They were filled with anger, and some of them even scolded him. Wu Chen was instantly condemned by everyone, and became the center of the vortex. He was shot back and forth by countless people. Fighting with me? Let's see what you can do now. Beauty Jew looked at Dustless triumphantly, and her small face was filled with a bright smile. Looking at the majestic Dustless, her whole face was filled with a sense of victory. Finally, I won once. Wu Chen remained silent, but in the eyes of Temptress Meijio, he was admitting defeat. Thinking of the previous suffocating experience, Temptress Meijio suddenly had a feeling of exaltation. This world was really too beautiful. He won a round? Who told you? Does this mean you won? Glancing at the Temptress Meijio indifferently, Wu Chen calmly asked. Based on what do you conclude that you've won? Ridiculous. I'm telling you now, the show has just begun. Stubborn. Hearing this, Beauty Geo snorted disapprovingly, and then stared at Dustless to see what magic weapon this guy had to turn the tables. While Beauty Geo stared at Dustless also stared at her. He also took the initiative to close the distance with Beauty Geo and grabbed her white arm. What do you want to do? Beauty Geo asked nervously. Being stared at by Dustless's blazing eyes made her uncomfortable, but she pretended to be calm and resolutely refused to admit defeat. What do I want to do? Dustless smiled strangely and said, You just said that I'm your boyfriend, right? Yes. Beauty Geo nodded. Announcing that Dustless was her boyfriend in front of the fans could arouse the anger of male fans, and Dustless would not be able to have a peaceful life in the future. Heh, then I'll do what a boyfriend should do now. As soon as the voice fell, Dustless pulled Beauty Geo over in an instant. Under the gaze of countless pairs of stunned eyes, he fiercely blocked Beauty Geo's cheeks. You! Beauty Geo's eyes widened in an instant. She looked at Dustless in disbelief. She looked at Dustless as if she was looking at a ghost. This guy dared to do something out of line in front of her fans. Whoa! After being sluggish for a while, Beauty Geo struggled frantically, but she was too weak to move at all. Her arm was tightly grasped, and she could not resist at all. You smelly cockroach, how dare you grab me? Beauty Geo's heart was blown by a storm. Her eyes were fixed on Dustless, and her pretty face was flushed with anger. She never thought that Dustless was so bold that he dared to do something in front of her fans. Wasn't this bastard afraid of being cut into pieces by her fans? Damn it, a man dares to. Beauty Geo clenched her fists tightly. She couldn't wait to beat Dustless to death. However, she was tied up by Dustless at the moment, and had no strength to do this kind of thing. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2141. Damn it, a man dares to. Temptress Magio clenched her fists tightly. She couldn't wait to beat Dustless to death. However, she was bound by Dustless at the moment, and she had no strength to move Dustless. For a long time, Temptress Magio hated men very much. There was a kind of hatred from the depths of her soul. Especially Dustless, this guy was really abominable. He even kissed her in public and took advantage of her openly. Dustless's behavior completely angered Temptress Magio. What should I do? This is bad. Seeing Dustless blocking Temptress Magio's lips, Murasame Rain was quite jealous. This was nothing more than verifying Dustless's catchphrase that often hung on his mouth. Dying under the peony, being a ghost is also a romantic. He caused the trouble himself, he should solve it himself. Itsuka Kotori said. Although she did not show dissatisfaction, Murasame Rain and others were not ignorant in the emotional aspect. They all heard a deep resentment, which was obviously aimed at Dustless. Oh my god, my goddess. Kill him, you must kill him. Is there anyone who is willing to ally with me? Temptress Magio, what kind of magic potion did this guy give her? How could he do this kind of thing in public? Damn it, it must be an illusion, this is absolutely an illusion. Countless male audiences were heartbroken. They looked at Dustless and wanted to cry but had no tears. Their ferocious eyes were comparable to wolves, tigers, and leopards. Everyone's heart was ignited. Your fans are really crazy. In the face of countless eyes that wanted to eat him, Dustless was calm. His cheeks were as calm as still water, and his tone was light as if he was talking about someone else. You brat. Who gave you the courage to do this? Temptress Magio's little face changed back and forth. It was extremely wonderful. She didn't expect Dustless to be so arrogant. He even dared to take advantage of her in front of her fans. Didn't he know the consequences of doing so? He could be cut into pieces at any time. Who gave me the courage? Do you still need to say it? You are so close to me. Dustless smiled disapprovingly. Didn't you say that I am your boyfriend? So what if I do this kind of thing? It's normal. Bastard, you clearly know that I said that on purpose, but you still. Tempting night beauty Jiu flew into a rage and glared at Wu Chen. Her beautiful eyes were spitting fire. She had a feeling of lifting a stone and dropping it on her own feet. Dustless. Temptress Meijio, Temptress Meijio, she gritted her teeth when she mentioned the word girlfriend. Tress Meijio. Use whatever means you have. Wu Chen said casually. I to you. To dustless Meijiless, and Meijiless to cry. S to cry. Ter Meijio Meijig to sos to her to cry. Woo. The sobbing sound was getting louder and louder, and it gradually spread to the audience. The scene that almost went berserk suddenly died down after Temptress Meijio stirred it up. There was dead silence. The goddess actually cried. Which brat did it? The male audience was furious. Temptress Meijio was the goddess in everyone's dream. Now someone actually made her cry. He should be put into a frying pan. This guy is really bad. He really knows how to play. Dustless frowned slightly. He took a deep look at Temptress Meijio and vaguely caught the pride in the girl's eyes. But don't regret it. Dustless muttered to himself in his heart. His frowning brows loosened. He had already guessed Temptress Meijio's evil idea. Fight with me? You are finished. Her white jade-like fingers suddenly pointed at Dustless. Temptress Meijio cried with a sad face. She was extremely pitiful. She sobbed. He already has a girlfriend and asked me to be his mistress. He also said that I am ugly and said that I am not qualified to be his girlfriend. Ooh. In the end, she seemed to have touched the wound in her heart. Temptress Meijio's sobbing sound became louder and harsher. Ha! Hearing this, not only the audience was stunned, but even Wu Chen also looked at the tearful Temptress Meijio inconceivably. In his heart he secretly said, "Damn, you're really an actress. You're invincible when you talk nonsense. When did I say that I want you to be a mistress? Kill this ungrateful brat. He is simply a scum. He is even worse than an animal. Yes, let's kill him together." After a moment of silence, the audience suddenly burst into an earth-shattering roar. They rushed over in a rage. Their ferocious appearance was comparable to ghosts. Everyone held a bench in their hands. They looked like they wanted to die together with Dustless. Ha ha ha, you are finished. Seeing this scene, Temptress Meijio wiped away her tears and looked at Dustless gloatingly. This bastard is finished this time. Is it? Wu Chen just glanced at the audience as if nothing had happened. Facing the enraged audience, he was not afraid. Instead, he took the initiative to take a few steps forward and looked at the male audience who rushed over with his eyes like torches. You want to kill them? Temptress Meijio frowned and then shook her head. If Dustless really did so, there would be no place for him in this world. Since you want to play so much, then I will accompany you to the end. Dustless looked around. His deep eyes suddenly burst out a wave of power, followed by an invisible impact in his body that swept out instantly. Boom boom boom. The invisible wave was extremely oppressive and swept over everyone. The crazy crowd stopped at the same time. Under the horrified gaze of Temptress Meijio, they fell to the ground in disbelief. What did you do? Temptress Meijio screamed and looked closely. Everyone was foaming at the mouth and rolling their eyes. In an instant, thousands of viewers fainted. I just used Haushiko Haki to stun them. Facing the girl's questioning eyes, Dustless answered indifferently. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus more, 3,000 rewards plus more, 1,000 evaluation votes plus more, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more. Chapter 2142. She just fainted? Hearing Dustless's indifferent answer, Beauty Temptress's face that was not stained with dirt showed some confusion. She just fainted? Isn't it too easy to say? Thousands of spectators attacked without hesitation, showing no mercy at all. Don't waste time. Use all your means. Don't waste my time. Dustless waved his hand impatiently. It's boring to talk to you here. You bastard. Am I that annoying? Pay attention to your words and tone. Hearing this, the nameless fire in Temptress Meijio's heart rose straight up. Her bright eyes stared at Wu Chen. She was hit hard by his annoyed tone. All along, she had been loved by everyone. Especially after obtaining the power of an elf, Temptress Magio's temperament became even more arrogant, and she became an existence above others. But as the saying goes, everything is an exception. Dustless's attitude was full of disgust, which made Beauty Temptress feel quite shocked. She even suspected that there was something wrong with her beauty. If there's nothing else, I'm going back to sleep. Dustless coldly glanced at Beauty Temptress. He labeled her as boring in his heart and then left. You. Stop right there. Who allowed you to leave? Beauty Temptress was stunned. She quickly shouted. Put down all my fans. How can I explain to them if you leave so casually? Fans. Hearing this, Dustless stopped. He turned his head and sneered at Beauty Temptress. Since you can use this group of idiots, why can't I attack them? What's more, you deliberately made things difficult for me. I'm already merciful that I didn't find trouble with you. Don't push it, little girl. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. In short, you have to stay. Beauty Temptress asked herself if it was Dustless's fault for bickering. His sharp tongue made her speechless every time. However, what made Magio lose face was that Dustless did not pay attention to her and left on his own. He did not even turn his head to look at Magio. Despicable fellow, could it be that being in the same space as this old lady isn't as comfortable as sleeping with you? Temptress Magio stomped her feet in anger. This feeling of being looked down upon caused her self-esteem to suffer a blow. Temptress Magio had always been an existence surrounded by stars wherever she went. Now that she was ignored by Dustless, her heart was immediately filled with anger. Of course, there was also a hint of curiosity and confusion. Unlike the others, Night Tempter Magio could clearly feel that the way Dustless looked at her didn't have that kind of deep possessiveness. It was very normal and calm. To put it bluntly, it was as if he was looking at a man. Women were such unpredictable creatures. Sometimes if you took the initiative to pay attention to the other party, they might ignore you. But when you ignored them, they would feel extremely uncomfortable. This was the case for Beauty Temptress Magio. She had always been praised to the sky, but now someone suddenly pulled her down and kicked her twice. Beauty Temptress Magio was really disgusted, but at the same time, there was an indescribable special feeling. I'm just curious. Beauty Temptress Magio comforted herself in her heart. At the same time, she glanced at Dustless gloomily. Seeing that this guy completely ignored her words, the spiritual power in her body slowly erupted. Boom boom boom. The hurricane-like spiritual power fluctuations swept across the audience. The already messy concert was even more unbearable at this moment. It was messy as if they had come to a second-hand furniture market. There were visible cracks on the seats. Immediately afterward, a pleasant song suddenly sounded. This clear and pleasant voice was very warm, like the sun in the cold winter. It made people want to relax and enjoy it. This chick doesn't accept a lesson at all. I just taught her a lesson. In such a short time, did she forget the pain? Dustless frowned. He clearly felt a special spiritual power hitting his mind, trying to control his thoughts. It's just that Dustless's spiritual power is too strong. This weak spiritual power has little impact on him, and it has no effect at all. He can deal with it calmly. Let's leave for now. Dustless shook his head. If he didn't have to, he really didn't want to bully a girl. Although he killed countless people, Dustless still has his own principles. As long as Beauty Temptress Magio is obedient, Dustless doesn't mind letting her go. But now, it seems that his kindness was ignored by the other party. That's it for today. I'll take you to other places to play later. Dustless looked at Itsuka Kotori and others. When he used Haushiko Haki to clear the area, he didn't target them. However, Itsuka Kotori and others didn't respond to Dustless. They just looked at Beauty Temptress Magio with empty eyes, and their cheeks were dull. Seeing that Itsuka Kotori and others ignored him, Dustless looked at them carefully. He saw that all of them were still looking at Beauty Temptress Magio with a very sincere expression. His face suddenly turned gloomy. You used your ability to control Toka and the others? Dustless clenched his fist suddenly. He didn't like to get angry, but some people always like to seek death. Your gloomy cheeks are wonderful. It's the most wonderful expression I've ever seen in my life. Hearing this, beauty temptress Meijio laughed out loud. The crisp and pleasant voice naturally evolved into a musical note, which is very pleasant to listen to. People with weak willpower will fall into it if they don't pay attention. Is that so? Dustless looked at beauty temptress Meijio faintly. Maybe it's really wonderful, but the price you have to pay for seeing this face is very heavy. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 evaluation votes plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2143. Is it? Dustless looked at Temptress Meijio faintly, and his eyes emitted a cold hostility. Maybe it's really wonderful, but the price you have to pay for seeing this face is very heavy. When these words fell, the scene suddenly became extremely oppressive, and it was filled with an austere oppressive atmosphere. Unknowingly, it became extremely difficult to breathe. Dustless's silent eyes revealed a fierce light, and his ruthless eyes looked at Temptress Meijio unscrupulously. To some extent, Temptress Meijio had really touched Dustless's reverse scale. He hated this kind of person who threatened him the most in his life. He absolutely couldn't let it go easily, no matter who it was. If anyone can talk nonsense, don't think that I will be afraid of you. Temptress Meijio looked at Dustless without fear. Perhaps because she was really angry, her proud cleavage swayed up and down, and the soul-stirring arc was wonderful and refreshing. However, the scene at the moment was extremely cold, and no one appreciated it. Although Temptress Meijio and Dustless were tit for tat, her eyes were obviously evasive. Obviously, she lacked confidence and was very afraid of Dustless's strength. After all, she had suffered several big losses before, and it was inevitable that it left a shadow in her heart. All of you go for me. Don't leave him alone. Beat this kid to death. I don't believe that he dares to fight back. Without nonsense, Temptress Meijio waved her hand gently. Xiang and others who were controlled trembled, and then they rushed to Dustless with empty eyes. Shoo shoo shoo. One after another, beautiful silhouettes rushed over and surrounded him from all directions. These people are your friends. I don't believe that you can do it. Temptress Meijio chuckled. Although Dustless gave people a cold feeling, she knew that Dustless cared about Xiang and others from the bottom of his heart. Being able to accompany them to watch her concert explained everything. Therefore, Temptress Meijio could conclude that Dustless would never hurt Xiang and others, so she could only wait for death. Do you think you can defeat me by relying on them? This idea is too naive and ignorant. The mocking tone rang in her ears. Xiao Meijio was stunned for a moment, before she looked over. What she saw was Dustless's sneering face. You have a sharp tongue. If you're a man, then kill them all for me to see. Temptress Meijio said with an ashen face. She was extremely angry and unhappy. She had always been a proud daughter of heaven. Now Dustless dared to mock her. His attitude was extremely bad. Temptress Meijio's self-esteem was constantly shattered. Do you need to test whether I'm a man or not? Or have you seen it before? Dustless asked with a teasing look. You have a nose and eyes, and your figure is not bad. If you want to have a memorable night with me, it's not impossible as long as you kowtow and beg me. In short, I have always been a very generous person. Go to hell, you bastard. Tempting Night Beauty Gio was so depressed that she almost vomited blood. This bastard really didn't know how to speak. Who didn't have a nose and eyes? These words sounded like a compliment, but in fact it was even worse than a curse. Moreover, this bastard was simply insatiable. There were too many people who had fantasized about her. Even if there were thousands of people lining up, Dustless wouldn't be her turn. However, this hateful bastard actually asked her to kowtow and beg him. Tempting Night Beauty Gio, she was about to explode. At the same time, 10 fragrances and the others also surrounded them. Boom boom boom. A large scale of power fluctuations erupted from Dustless's body. It was almost materialized. Wave after wave, it was vast and endless. The scene was very oppressive and shocking. The high-density power suppressed people until they couldn't breathe. There was no doubt that Dustless definitely didn't intend to wait for death. Binding path number 61, 6-rod light prison. His finger gently pointed at 10 fragrances and the others. Several golden ribbons of light attacked from all directions, easily fixing them in place. Even though they were close to Dustless, it was difficult for them to move. It was as difficult as ascending to heaven to take half a step forward. Is there a mistake? He subdued a group of elves so easily? Could it be that he went easy on them? Tempting Night Beauty Geo looked at the scene in front of her in a daze. She subconsciously frowned. She was counting on 10 fragrances, and the others to make things difficult for Dustless. Who would have thought that they were so weak that they were easily dealt with in the blink of an eye? Next is you. Since you like to court death, then I can't let you die. Have a good experience of what it means to be unable to live and unable to die. His gaze fell on Tempting Night Beauty Geo again. Dustless slowly walked over. With every small step he took, Tempting Night Beauty Geo's heart would sink a little. Sparkling and translucent sweat condensed on her hair. She felt powerless as if the sky was falling down. Dustless's strength was obvious to all. She really didn't have much confidence in defeating Dustless. Am I going to admit defeat just like that? Tempting Night Beauty Geo's exquisite beautiful eyes stared at Dustless, who was slowly walking over. She couldn't help but shiver. Bow down? Or bow down to a man who has repeatedly despised and insulted me? It's better to kill her. Seeing Dustless's face, Tempting Night Beauty Geo was extremely depressed. Boom boom boom. Although her strength was not as good as Dustless, Tempting Night Beauty Geo's body also burst out with surging spiritual power. The vast ocean was endless, as majestic as the sea. There was no limit to it. Undoubtedly, Tempting Night Beauty Geo was also going all out. She had repeatedly offended and plotted against Dustless. She knew that after being captured alive, she would definitely be tortured by this guy. Tempting Night Beauty Geo hated men very much, and her temper was very arrogant. She had the temperament of a queen. How could she tolerate being Dustless's captive? Absolutely not allowed. A deathbed struggle? TSK, whether it is an elf or a human, this is an instinct. When facing danger, it is absolutely impossible to bow down and give up. Sensing the spiritual power fluctuation in Tempting Night Beauty Geo's body, Dustless smiled faintly and still walked over. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 evaluation votes plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2144. Don't come over, or we'll fight to the death. Temptress Magio threatened. She had already unleashed her spiritual power, and almost used all her strength, but she still couldn't stop Dustless's pace. His face was extremely relaxed, as if he was walking leisurely in the clouds. There was no resistance and he walked over gently. As I said before, don't overestimate yourself. With your level, you want to fight to the death with me? Naive little girl. The fish will die, but this net will not be broken. Dustless said slowly. At the same time he glanced at the embarrassed Temptress Magio and said coldly, as I said before, you will pay a heavy price. Let's start now. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As his voice fell, Dustless disappeared like a ghost. What the hell? How can a mere human be so fast? Temptress Magio opened her eyes wide, and looked around for traces of Dustless. She tried to capture Dustless's figure, but sadly, even though her eyes were sore and stinging, she couldn't find any trace of Dustless. Pa! A crisp sound suddenly spread out, and a strange numbness swept through her body in an instant. Temptress Magio blushed, and turned her head to glare at Dustless angrily. She roared. You dare to hit my butt? Stinky hooligan, scum, you are wasting human resources by living. If I were you, I would find a place where there is no one around and hang myself. Very quickly, Xiao Meijio reacted and said evil words. You continue to talk, I'll do it. As his voice fell, Dustless winked at Temptress Magio and smiled. You bastard! Temptress Magio was furious. Then her thin lips opened slightly, and a pleasant song came from her throat, making people addicted. Boom boom boom. However, This heavenly song was extremely dangerous and contained a terrifying sound wave attack. The moment he heard the song, Dustless's mind roared. It was as if there was a time bomb buried in his body that suddenly exploded. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless's body was blasted into pieces by the sound wave. His perfectly fine body flew out like a fairy scattering flowers. However, what was intriguing was that when a person's body exploded, the debris that flew out should be bones and blood, but what floated out of Dustless's body was shiny light. Furthermore, what made Dustless most depressed was that in the blink of an eye, the splashing resplendent light gathered once again, filling up the original missing parts. Dustless's body was instantly repaired. Damn it! What kind of freak is this damned brat? Why does he have such an unheard of ability? He's just a stinky hooligan. Looking at the recovered Dustless, Temptress Magio stomped her feet. Her words were filled with jealousy. If only she had such a heaven-defying ability. You don't have a brain at all. Dustless sighed and said sympathetically, I told you before. I am a flash person who ate the flash fruit. All physics won't work. As you can see, even if you are lucky enough to attack me, it won't have the slightest effect. I will be restored without limit. You, Temptress Magio, didn't attack. Dustless's lazy tone seemed to be mocking her own weakness. This volcano suddenly erupted. Is your ability that great? If you are a man, then have a fair fight with me. Temptress Magio pouted. Her angry appearance was very flirtatious. Her towering cleavage swayed back and forth, almost bursting out of her dress. Gulp. Seeing this scene, even with Dustless's temperament, he couldn't help but stagnate. He immediately sighed. Some people are particularly eye-catching when they are angry, but it's still the same sentence. Whether I am a man or not. Why don't you take off your clothes and let's try it? With a playful smile on his cheeks, Dustless's face was extremely thick. Such shameless words were said calmly. You are shameless. Temptress Magio was instantly embarrassed. Her snow-like face was covered with a sickly blush. Compared with Dustless, her face was too thin, full of flaws. Gently glancing at Temptress Magio, Dustless once again turned into a stream of light and rushed out. He circled behind Temptress Magio with lightning speed, and gently raised his big hand fell again. Pa. It was the same crisp sound as before. It lingered in the dead silent concert venue for a long time. It was accompanied by a burst of fragrance quietly spreading to every corner. Ah, bastard, I want to die with you. Temptress Magio was stunned at first. After a few seconds of being dumbfounded, she went berserk. She roared at the top of her voice. She didn't have the slightest demeanor of a lady. She was like a servant who had been wronged. There was no doubt that her violent temper was exposed. She turned around and slapped Dustless. As everyone knows, Temptress Magio is an out-and-out lesbian. Men are cockroaches in her eyes. She will feel disgusted even if they say a word. Now she was humiliated by Dustless and spanked twice. Even a clay figurine would have a clay figurine, let alone Temptress Magio who hates men. Boom. It seemed like an ordinary slap, but it contained a great energy fluctuation. Under anger, Temptress Magio covered her palm with all her spiritual power. If ordinary people were slapped, they would die on the spot. At this moment, she was really murderous. Bang. Such a dangerous slap hit Dustless head-on. His body trembled slightly. This time, he didn't even use the Devil Fruit's elemental transformation ability. This bastard. After being stunned for a while, Temptress Magio's face turned green. She cursed secretly. What is this bastard made of? Why is his skin as hard as a diamond? He is fine after being slapped. The slap hit Dustless, but nothing happened at all. Instead, Temptress Magio's arm trembled from the rebounding force. Her entire arm softened and was easily caught by Dustless. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2145. Let go of me, bastard. Being held tightly by Dustless, Temptress Magio almost vomited. She had goosebumps all over her body, and her face was full of shame and anger. It couldn't be helped. She hated men so much. It was like an instinct. She was fine at first, but when she was suddenly grabbed by Wu Chun, she inexplicably felt like vomiting. "Didn't I say that you will pay a heavy price?" Glancing at Temptress Meijio, Dustless said in a very casual tone. "Provoking me, if I don't leave a terrible memory for you, how can I survive in the future? I must let you live in my shadow for the rest of your life." What do you want?" She stared at Dustless while choking with sobs. At this moment, in the eyes of Temptress Meijio, this handsome little face was extremely terrifying. More terrifying than a demon. "How about it? It's very simple." Dustless stared at the frightened Temptress Meijio and chuckled. "You dare to control my people? How about this, from now on, you will be my shadow in the future." "Shadow?" Hearing this, Temptress Meijio's little face froze. She looked at Dustless blankly, not understanding what this guy meant. "The so-called shadow is naturally like a shadow following the body. In other words, from now on, you will be my slave." Dustless stretched out his tone, and at the same time, quietly observed the changes in Temptress Meijio. Boom boom boom. Temptress Meijio's body suddenly erupted with powerful spiritual power fluctuations. She gritted her teeth and tried her best to suppress her anger. "You want me to be your maid? Why don't you die?" But sadly, after enduring for a long time, Temptress Meijio almost became a ninja turtle. In the end, she couldn't suppress the anger in her heart and couldn't help but roar out. Still not convinced? Seeing this, Dustless was suddenly happy. If Temptress Meijio was willing to bow her head, he didn't mind being a gentleman. However, Temptress Meijio was a blockhead, and he had to teach her a lesson. Pa! Another slap landed on alluring Night Beauty Jio's important part as a woman, and a bright red palm print appeared on it. "Aya!" Temptress Meijio grimaced in pain. Tears welled up in the corners of her eyes as she glared angrily at Dustless. The tears that were about to flow out of her eyes were sucked back in by Temptress Meijio. Her expression was stubborn as she angrily rubbed her buttocks. After being slapped by Dustless a few times, it was extremely painful. "If you have the guts, then kill me. What's the point of humiliating a girl?" Temptress Night Beauty said in a low voice. Her teeth were about to shatter. "Kill you? That's too kind." Dustless suddenly laughed. He was as cheap as he could be, at least in the eyes of the Temptress Meijio. Gulp. Looking at the smirking Dustless, Temptress Meijio's heart skipped a beat. She was very nervous and had a bad premonition. "Since you don't know what's good for you, then I will." Staring at Temptress Meijio's noble dress, Dustless grinned. His expression was as wretched as it could be. He was like the reincarnation of a pervert. A pair of big hands grabbed over. Crack. The exquisite dress was easily torn by Dustless, revealing her white skin. Temptress Meijio suddenly felt a chill in her body. She looked down and saw that her cleavage, which made people feel ashamed of themselves, was exposed under Dustless's eyes. Stinking rogue. Temptress Meijio was furious and slapped him. Bang. Dustless easily blocked her weak arm. His face immediately turned cold, and his other hand hit out without hesitation. Pa. The majestic cleavage suddenly shook. It was so painful that Temptress Meijio burst into tears. At the same time, her body also seemed to be electrocuted. All the strength in her body was drained. She fell down softly and fell into Dustless's arms. "Ah, you are really a female rogue. You keep saying that you hate men, but now you take the initiative to throw yourself into my arms. Please, Temptress Meijio, can't you be a little bit more reserved? I'm embarrassed." Dustless blinked his eyes. His expression was shy and embarrassed. You are a sinister villain." Temptress Meijio's face turned green. Of course, she wanted to say goodbye to Dustless, but the slap just now had an inexplicable power, which drained all her strength. Her whole body was weak and soft in Dustless's arms. "What's the matter? Why do I suddenly have no strength?" Temptress Meijio's eyes were blurred. She fell into Dustless's arms. She wanted to find a hole to drill into. She lost her face. However, this guy smells very good. Inadvertently exhaling, A simple and elegant faint fragrance came from Dustless's body into the ears and nose. It was very light, almost faint, but it really existed. It was like a poppy, which made people fascinated. It was the first time that Temptress Magio heard that a man's smell could be so good. No wonder that group of girls listened to him. The group of girls in Temptress Magio's mouth was naturally Nightblade God 10 Fragrance and others. Their power was sealed by Dustless. Their strength was extremely weak. Just now they were unconsciously controlled. Temptress Magio, don't waste my time. What is your choice? Do you want to be my maid? Or do you want to be thrown on the street by me? Don't you hate men? I will take off all your clothes and throw you into the pile of men. Showing a scary expression, Dustless scared the girl. Are you serious? Temptress Magio looked at Dustless in horror. The good impression of Dustless that she had with great difficulty disappeared without a trace in an instant. Woman, you are asking for a beating. If you don't agree to my conditions, I will throw you into the pile of men and live with a group of cockroaches. This is a new experience that you have never had before. Do you want to try it? Dustless said seriously. In fact, he was just deliberately scaring Temptress Magio. I promise you. From now on, I will be your servant. Gritting her teeth, Temptress Magio finally succumbed to Dustless's conditions. She did not dare to gamble. If Dustless really did that, her life would be over. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2146. I promise you that I will be your servant from now on. Gritting her teeth, tempting Night Magio finally succumbed to Dustless's conditions. She didn't dare to gamble. If Dustless really did that, her life would be over. The moment she agreed to Dustless's conditions, tempting Night Magio's eyes were empty and gloomy. It was as if her soul had been taken away, and she had turned into a walking corpse. Looking at Dustless in a daze, tempting Night Magio gradually recovered her strength. She broke free from Dustless's arms and stared at his handsome face in a daze. She never expected that one day, she would lower her proud head to a man. Even now, tempting Night Magio still felt like she was in the clouds, as if everything was still an illusion. However, the tingling sensation from her buttocks told tempting Night Magio that this wasn't a dream. It was useless to regret it. Dustless would retaliate even more fiercely. Why are you still standing there like a fool? Hurry up and release the ability to control 10 fragrances and the others. Really, your reaction is so slow. You're really like a piece of wood. Seeing tempting Night Magio staring at him in a daze, Dustless scolded her in annoyance. Fine, I'll endure it. You're unreasonable. Taking a deep breath, tempting Night Magio resisted the urge to vomit blood. Tempting Night Magio released the ability to control Night Sword God, 10 fragrances and the others. She only hoped to send this plague away as soon as possible. Dustless stood there for a while, and tempting Night Magio felt stifled. She couldn't even breathe properly. What did we do just now? Strange, why am I here? I seem to remember that there was an extremely powerful energy that invaded my mind. As for what happened after that, I can't remember clearly. The girls' eyes regained their spirit. When they saw the light band that bound them, they discussed in confusion. At the same time, they looked at Dustless and tempting Night Magio at the same time. Looks like it's a success. Murasame Rianjian chuckled and looked carefully. She saw Night Temptress Magio standing next to Dustless. Although her pretty face was ugly, she was sure that Dustless successfully took Night Temptress Magio. Otherwise, this little girl would have already exploded. Night Temptress Magio had always kept a distance from men. At present, she kept a short distance of 1 or 2 meters with Dustless. But if I said that I successfully took down the Night Seducer Magio, this favorability index is too strange. At the same time, Murasame Rain collected new information. The favorability of Night Tempter Magio to Dustless. But what surprised Murasame Rain was that Dustless actually got Night Tempter Magio. But the favorability of this arrogant girl to Dustless was 0. As expected of Dustless. You are indeed extraordinary and powerful. Seeing that Meijio was obedient but displeased, Murasame Rain could only give a thumbs up. Is everyone alright? Today's farce is over. Let's go home together. Walking to Itsuka Kotori and the others, Dustless also felt a burst of exhaustion. He could crush his enemies easily, but he couldn't deal with disobedient and stubborn women step by step. Dustless had lost a lot of brain cells because of this. You kissing me like this, it gives people the feeling that you are very happy and you are tired? Itsuka Kotori grumbled. Her resentful tone made her sound like a resentful housewife. Dustless glanced at Itsuka Kotori. Her resentful gaze made him feel uncomfortable. Making out with this guy? Before Dustless spoke, Night Temptress Meijio couldn't help but jump out. Then kill me. Yes. Wu-chan also nodded in agreement and said without hesitation. Who would be intimate with such a tigress? It's better to sleep. You. Hearing that, Night Temptress Meijio's mouth twitched. She picked up something and threw it at Dustless without thinking. Fortunately, Dustless dodged it, otherwise his head would be bleeding. This bastard is really preposterous. Could it be that being intimate with me isn't as important as him sleeping? Is this asshole a man, or is there something wrong with his sexual orientation? Night Temptress Meijio cursed Dustless in her heart. Let's go back. After saying that, Wu-chan took the lead to leave the dark and messy concert venue. He bathed in the warm sunshine again and felt refreshed. The cells in his body seemed to come alive in an instant. Itsuka Kotori and others followed behind Dustless. They kept chattering, which made Dustless roll his eyes and left alone. However, before Dustless left for long, Dustless received a special message in his mind. TSK, that sickly girl Tokisaki Kurumi finally couldn't take it anymore? Looks like she's going to bow down to me. Dustless was pleased with himself. Tokisaki Kurumi had been trapped in the Kamui dimension for a while, living alone in a desolate world. No one talked to her. She was the only one in the entire dimension. But it was worth mentioning that other than Tokisaki Kurumi, Dustless also left a shadow clone to observe Tokisaki Kurumi's movements. The message just now came from the shadow clone. Tokisaki Kurumi couldn't take it anymore. She was on the verge of breaking down. Night Temptress Meijio is obedient, and Tokisaki Kurumi is also quiet. These two troublesome opponents seem to have bowed down to me. This is a double blessing. Dustless quickened his pace and returned home as soon as possible, then released Tokisaki Kurumi and sealed her power with a kiss. Frankly speaking, after sealing Tokisaki Kurumi's power, Dustless could also use Tokisaki Kurumi's power. Dustless was actually quite interested in the engraving Emperor's power. Dustless was envious of such a powerful ability that could even allow him to travel back in time, and he longed to have it. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.